Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and this is part 1 of how to make a Loomigurumi Max the dog from The Secret Life of Pets. So here's his little face, here's what his body looks like. He has a cute little collar, and I tried to get it as close to the pattern that it shows on his body, but of course you can change it up if you don't want to make a Max. If you just want to make any kind of a generic dog, you can make any pattern or colors that you like. To make your dog, you're going to need some sort of stuffing, so I am going to be using polyfil. I have a rainbow loom metal hook, but you can use a crochet hook or whatever you have available. You're going to need some kind of clips or stitch markers, and then I will be using a twist tie to help me get the magic ring started, so that's optional, but it is very helpful. And then as far as my band counts go, I have all Rainbow Loom brand bands, and I tried to get an accurate count, so hopefully I'm pretty close. I used 1,153 white, 312 orange, 23 black, 6 brown, 38 blue, and those are the ocean blue jelly bands, and then 7 yellow. To begin the legs, we're going to use 11 rubber bands, and it's going to start with a chain of 4. So I'm going to take my first band and triple this on my hook, so just put it on, twist, loop it back on, twist, and back on one more time. So you have your 3 loops, and then you're going to take your first band, pull it through those 3 loops, back on your hook, pull through your next, back on, and then one more time. So that's our chain of 4, and then with this last band we're going to pull one through the other and just leave that nice and loose. You don't want to make a tight slip knot. And then the part that's facing you, the chain, what you're going to do is go back through that same chain. So it's going to be from the front side. I'm going to push through under both of those loops. I'm going to do a single crochet so it comes through, back on. You'll have 3 loops, one through the other 2. Then you're going to move over to your next chain. Again, from front, push through. That's going to be a single crochet, one through the other 2. That's going to bring you to your end. This is that tripled band. You're going to get through all 3 loops. It's going to be tight. And this time we're going to do 3 single crochet in that same chain. So pull through the first, one through the other 2, back through. Again, make sure you're going through all 3 loops. And then one more time. It's definitely tight. You're going to do your last. Now we're going to come back down the other side, and we're going to do 1 single crochet into that next chain, and then the last chain already has 1 in. We're going to go back through that one and do a single crochet. So that's basically going to be the base of your foot. And then you're going to take a clip or a stitch marker and put that on the band that's on your hook. And this is going to give you a stitch count of 8. So if you count around, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then number 8 is on your hook. In row 2, you're going to need 12 bands, and we're going to be doing 4 increases. So we're going to start with an increase under our first stitch, and a stitch is the little sideways V. Now on this very first one you may notice that it might be a little bit less obvious because there's one little part here that isn't actually the true stitch. If you look to the side, it's this sideways V. You're going to go under. We're doing an increase, so that's doing the same. Back through that second time. And then we're doing 2 singles. So that was 1, up to the next, 2. Now we're going to do 2 increases in a row. So that's our first increase, and then our second. So this would be basically around the front or the toe part of the foot. And then we're going to do 2 more singles, coming back down the other side. And then where your clip is, it's going to be an increase. So as I said, we're using 12 bands, and that's going to increase our stitch count to 12. So if you count it around on your stitches, you should have a total of 12. Row 3 has 4 more increases, so our stitch count is going to be 16. We're starting on an increase in the first stitch, and then this time we're doing 3 single crochets. So we're going up the side of the foot. Basically we're just trying to widen this out, and then we have an increase. This is coming up along the front of the foot, a single, and then another increase, and then we're doing 3 singles. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then we have another increase, this is along the back, and then 1 single in the end. You'll need 11 bands for row 4, and we are going to start to do some decreases. So everywhere I have a clip, that denotes a decrease. So basically that's just putting 2 stitches together. So we're starting with 3 singles. So here's 1, 2, 3. And to do a decrease, there are different ways you can do it, but the way that I found easiest is what we're going to do is just go in the outer loops, and you're going to skip the first stitch and then go to your second stitch. Go through just that outer loop, pull slightly back, and then push through that first outer loop that we had just skipped. Pull straight through, and just like a regular single crochet, 1 through the other 2. So again, another decrease, so skip the first, go in the second outer loop, pull back just slightly, and slide right through the first outer loop, pull through, 1 through the other 2. Again, skip, outer loop, pull back, straight through. So this is our third decrease, and one more time, skip, outer loop, pull back, first outer loop, pull through, whoops, and through. So now we're going to do 3 single crochets. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then you should be left with 2 stitches, and I'm just going to take my clip out so you can see a little bit better. We are doing a decrease in those last 2 stitches, so skip, grab that outer loop, pull through, 1 through the other 2. I'm just going to reattach my clip, and you should notice that it is coming inward now, It sort of forms like a little booty. You'll need 9 bands for row 5, and we are going to do just 2 more decreases. I'm starting with 3 single crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, and again we're along the front here. We're going to do 2 decreases, so skip, outer loops. So that was my first, and then skip, again outer loops. They may be sort of a little bit closer together since we did decreases here on the previous row, so just be careful about that. And then that's going to leave us with 4 singles. So there's 1, 2, 3, and last one where your clip is. I know it does get pretty closed off here. We've reduced it now to a stitch count of 9, and that's going to be the size that we're going to grow up for the rest of the leg. In rows 6 through 11, you're going to need 9 bands for each row, and you're just going to be doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. So since that's pretty straightforward, I'm going to go ahead and let you do those rows on your own. So you can pause here, do that now, and I will see you back here shortly. Once you've completed your first leg, what you're going to do is go ahead and make 3 more. So I will add the time to go back to if you want to follow along with the steps again. So you can go ahead and pause, make your 3 additional legs, and I will see you soon. Row 1 of the ear is going to start with a magic ring of 6. So for that I have 7 orange bands, and then I do have a twist tie that I'm going to use to help me get my magic ring started. So if you have the twist tie, just put it right next to your hook. And of course this is optional. You're going to take your band and you're going to triple it. So just twist and loop it back on 2 times. Bend this in half, and that's just going to keep those 3 loops together and give you something to grab onto. So you're just going to pull through your 6 bands. So that's 1, back through all 3 loops from front to back. There's 2. 3, 4, 5, and the last one. You can take out your twist tie, add your clip to the band that's on your hook, and then just take a second and try and even these out around that circle. In row 2, you're going to need 8 bands, and we're doing an increase followed by 2 singles and repeat. So your very first stitch gets your increase. And then 2 singles. You're going to do a second increase. And then 2 more singles. Move your clip. In rows 3 and 4, you need 8 bands for each, and it's just 1 single crochet into each stitch. So you can pause here and do that now, and I'll see you back here in a minute. In row 5, you'll need 8 bands. We're doing 1 single crochet into each stitch, but this time we're doing just the outer loop for the first 3 and then also for the last stitch. So we're just going in this outer loop, the one that's farthest away from you. So just push down through the middle of the V and out. And we're doing that for the first 3 stitches, just so it can bend a little bit easier. So that's 1, 2, 3, and you will feel it's going to feel looser on your hook. And then the next 4 we're going to go under both loops, just like our regular single. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again while your last stitches, let me just take the clip off, again just the outer, and reattach. In row 6 we're decreasing down to 6 bands. So we're starting on a decrease. Remember, it's just the outer loops, so skip the first. It is going to feel a little bit loose since we did just go in those outer loops on the previous row. So it's our decrease, and then we're going to do 2 singles. Going to do our next decrease. And then 2 more singles. In rows 7 through 10, we're doing 1 single crochet into each stitch, but on the 3rd row we are going to tack the first part of the ear to make the bend. So why don't you go ahead and pause here and do the first 2 rows, and then I'll come back and show you that 3rd row that tacks. Now I've done row 7 and 8, I'm on to row 9, that's the one we're going to tack it. So I'm going to go under my first stitch, and then what I'm going to do is find somewhere near the top of the ear on that same side. So here's my magic ring. Here's like a little opening from the first row. I would say maybe about the 2nd opening, somewhere right around here, towards that right side. I'm going to go under 2 loops from the stitch, and I'm going to pull through the band. It's going to go through that first part of the ear, through the stitch, and then 1 through the other 2. Now this is going to pull this closed rather tightly, and it's a little bit harder to see what you're doing, so feel free to stretch this circle open if you need to. Now the next one over, I'm just going to do a regular single crochet, and then I'm going to go in my 3rd stitch, and again I'm going to go up to that same area, but I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ear. Just want to make sure I'm getting around the same spot. Again, I'm going to go under a loop or 2, pull that through, 1 through the other 2. So that should be folding this in half now, and we still have to complete our way around. Again, don't hesitate to stretch this circle open. Now I just lost my clip, but here's stitch number 4, 5, and 6. This is where my clip should be if it hadn't fallen off. And then you're going to have 1 more row to do. Again, it's going to be folded in, so just take your time. And I lost my clip again. I'm going to have to get a clip that grips a little tighter. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So you can always play around with the adjustment if you don't think it's quite right. I mean, the tacking part is a little bit subjective. You just kind of have to eyeball it. But you can see here how that has now curved this down, and then the ear will be ready to attach to the top of the head. So what you're going to do is go ahead and pause here, and you want to make a second ear. So once again, I will add the time to go back to if you want to follow along with the steps once again. Rows 1 through 4 of the tail are going to start with white rubber bands. We're doing a magic ring of 3, an increase in each stitch, and then 2 rows of single crochet. So we're starting out with a tripled band. I'm not going to bother with a twist tie. I have just 3 bands that I'm going to pull through. So there's 1, whoops, 2, 3, and then I'm going to add my clip. Now with a magic ring of 3, it is very small and everything gets kind of squished together. Let me get this clip on the other side. So you can try and spread these out the best that you can. So you need to go under your first stitch. It might be a little bit farther around than you're used to. We're doing an increase. And then over to your next one, we have a second increase. I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm actually struggling myself here a little bit. And then where your clip is, that's going to be your last increase. Let me just take that clip off for now. And you can do some adjusting if you feel like it's just kind of a big ball here. Just kind of pinch the end and spread out the circle. And then we're going to do 2 more rows of the white. So there's going to be 6 rubber bands in each pile. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to do 1 more row of the white. So once you get a couple rows going, it should be a little bit easier. And then for the next part, we're going to switch to doing single crochet with the orange. That's my last one. Rows 5 through 7 of the tail are going to be 1 single crochet in each with the orange, and I am going to let you do those on your own. I just want to start the very beginning with you because we are going to have to do a slip stitch. So we're going under the first stitch, but since we're changing colors, we're going to do that slip stitch. So you just pull through your stitch, but you also pull through the white that's on your hook. Get the other end back on, you have just the 2 orange, and 1 goes through the other. And then it's just a matter of doing 1 in each the rest of the way around. Whoops, got under a band I didn't want to. And we are going to be doing a lot of slip stitches for the rest of this as we build it. and you will get very familiar with them if you aren't already. Last one. And you would just continue on with the next 2 rows. The nose is going to begin with a magic ring of 6, so for that I have my 7 black bands. So I'm going to triple my first band, so just loop it 2 times, and then that's going to leave me with 6 bands. I'm going to pull through 1 at a time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, just take out the twist tie, add your clip or stitch marker, and then space this around the circle as evenly as you can. You'll need 10 bands for our second and final row of the nose. It's going to be 2 increases followed by a single and then repeat. So I'm starting with an increase, and then in the second stitch another increase, then a single, and then I'm just going to repeat that again. So I have an increase, an increase, and then a single. The head is going to begin with a magic ring of 6, so for that I have my 7 white rubber bands. So I'm tripling my first band, and then I'm just going to pull through 1 at a time. So when we do our second row, that's where we're going to start to attach the nose. I tried to make the nose and the head one piece, but the angling of the nose just didn't work out. So that's why I decided to make it 2 separate. Here's number 6. In row 2, we're doing an increase in every stitch, and we are going to attach the nose on the last 4 bands. So we're doing 2 in each stitch, just basically trying to widen out this nose or this muzzle. So this is my 3rd stitch. And here's my 4th. And then it's in those 5th and 6th stitches we're going to attach the nose. So what you're going to do is go through this stitch. You're going to pick up your nose. You want the outside facing you. And I'm going to go around in a clockwise direction to that next stitch from where the loose band is. I'm going to push through that stitch, and I'm going to also go through the loose band. I'm going to pull through those 3 black loops, the white stitch, get the other end back on, and 1 through the other 2. Now I am going to go through that white stitch again since it's my increase, and I'm going to go under this stitch that is right next to the one we just attached. So the one where it has the clip on we just attached, and sometimes I do go under that stitch, but in this case I'm going to skip it, go to the next one over, going to pull through the 2 stitches, and then let me just take my clip off, doing my last increase. I'm going to go to the next black stitch over, again same white stitch but the next black stitch, and then I'm going to attach my clip. You'll need 16 bands for row 3, and we're starting with an increase 1 pattern, and the last 5 are singles, and where I have the clip is where we're going to attach the nose. So our first stitch is an increase, then a single, and an increase. I'm just going to keep repeating this pattern. Single, increase, and one more time, single, and an increase. And that's going to get you up to the nose part. So in this next stitch we're going to go through the white stitch and then find your next stitch around that doesn't have any in it. Go through your black. This is where we're attaching. So just pull through both stitches. And now you're going to have some stitches in between here, so you're just going to push back the nose so you can see your stitches. We're only going through the white, so we actually have 3 here. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then in the last stitch where your clip is, you want to attach it to the other side of the nose. So again, you can see that we've gone through this one, so we want to go to the one that's right before that. And again, just pull through both stitches and move your clip. In row 4, you're going to need 18 bands. We're doing 2 more increases, and again where I have the clips is where we're going to finish attaching the nose. So I'm starting with 1 single, and then in the second stitch we're doing an increase, then we're going to do 6 singles. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then we're going to do our next increase, and then we have 7 singles, so we're doing 2 plain, and now in 3, 4, and 5 we're going through the stitch and then also through the nose. It should line up fairly well. So it's our last 3 that are It's going to close off this nose. So here's the next one through both. And then one more time. It's kind of hard to see because it's really closed off. And then that's going to leave you with 2 stitches left. That's just going to go through the white. Oops. So now your nose should be completely attached. In rows 5 through 7, you're going to need 18 bands for each row, and it's just going to be 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do those on your own, so you can pause, and I will see you back here soon. In row 8, we're going to be starting with orange, and we are going to be doing 3 more increases. So to begin, we're doing 10 white single crochet. So let me just count those out with you. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then what we're going to do is an increase, and we are just going to go in the outer loop. So go through that middle of your V and just push through the outer loop. This is going to be like the top of the face. So we're doing an increase, outer loop, a single, again outer loop, an increase, and now we're still sticking with just the outer loop. We are going to change to orange, so it's a single. We're doing a slip stitch, so pull through everything on your hook. You'll have just the 2 oranges, one through the other. Outer loop, we're doing an increase in the orange, next one, outer loop, the orange, again our last orange, outer loop, and then we're going to come to the last stitch where your clip is. Let me just take that off. We are going to go under both loops. We're switching to white, so again pull through everything on your hook, one through the other. In row 9, we're increasing to a stitch count of 23. So we're starting with 12 white single crochet, and they are going under both loops. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And now in that 13th stitch, we're doing an increase, and then a single white, and now I'm going under a white stitch. I'm switching to the orange, so again I'm going to have to do a slip stitch, And now every time we've done a slip stitch, it creates what I consider a false stitch. So you can see on this previous row we had switched to orange. You see a band that's sort of going up and then one that's going over. So this first little part that's facing more upward is not actually a true stitch, it's this next one over. So you're going under that. We're doing a second single crochet, and now we're doing an increase with the orange, two more singles, our last orange stitch we're switching to white, so again you're doing that slip stitch, last one is a white, again you're going to have that false stitch, the one that's sticking more up, that's not your true stitch, so ignore that, and we have our last white. Row 10 is going to increase the stitch count to 27, and that's actually the highest stitch count we're going to have for any row. So we're starting with 11 singles in the white. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And then in the 12th stitch we're doing an increase. Then a single, an increase, and then the last white stitch here gets a white single. So again, in the next stitch, remember that was a slip stitch, ignore the first. We're going under an orange with a single orange, so do your slip stitch again. Next one gets an increase, a single, and then an increase, and then we're doing 2 singles with orange, and they are both going under orange stitches. Next white was a slip stitch, so ignore. Switching back to white, so do your slip stitch, and then last one gets a single. Next I'm going to add the mouth before the head gets any larger. So for that I have 6 black bands and 1 white to tie it off. So you can place the mouth wherever you think looks best. What I'm going to do is find the magic ring here, the white, and I'm going to go to the 4th row down. So I'm just going to count these open spaces, these little holes. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the row I'm going to go on, and I'm going to start right here, and what I'm going to do is take my hook and push out from the inside, push out that hole. I'm going to take my first band, pull one end through to the back, leave that on my hook, push out the next hole. I'm going to follow that same row, grab the other end, pull through to the back. You should have 2 bands on your hook. I'm going to just pull one through the other. and then I'm going to push back out through that same hole, grab my next band, pull through, push out the next opening, following that same row, pull the other end through. Now I'm going to have 3 loops, one through the other 2. Just going to keep following that pattern, so push out the same hole, pull one side through, go to the next opening, grab the other end, pull through, 3 loops, one through the other 2. So you can see that this part is a little bit more flush the way I'm doing it, and on the inside it's more thicker chain. So if you like the look of this better, you could just do the opposite. Instead of working from the inside out the way that I'm doing, you could work from the outside in. So it's really just a matter of preference. So I'm pulling through, going to the next opening, and I've chosen to use 6, but you can use more or less. It just depends on how big you want your mouth to be. I did want him to have a nice visible smile. Here's my last one. So then what I'm going to do is go to 1 or 2 loops right next to there. I'm pushing under on the inside. Just going to pull through everything that's on my hook, and then one through the other, pull that really nice and tight to make a slip knot, and then we have our smile. In row 11, you're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch, so I'm just going to let you do this row on your own. You're going to do 16 white, 8 orange, and 3 white. So just make sure you're doing a slip stitch when you're changing colors, and you're ignoring that first little part of the slip stitches from the previous row. In row 12, you'll need 27 bands, and we are going to start to attach the first part of each of the ears. We're starting out with 12 white singles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now we're going to connect the first part of the ear in the next 3 stitches. So it is going to be white. You're going to go through your stitch. You're going to pick up your ear. Now we want the ear to be facing forward like this. So I'm going to attach the 3 stitches that are towards the front. So I'm actually going to have to put the part that I want to attach, put them next to each other. So where this angles down, it makes this V. It's going to be facing basically down like this. You're going to have to push those together, and your circle here might be kind of closed off. You should have 6 stitches. We're going to do 3, attach 3. So from where this loose band is, I'm going to go 2 stitches over. So here's the loose band, count 1, 2. I'm going to push my hook through that stitch. I'm going to take my white band, I'm going to pull through the stitch, the orange stitch, the white stitch, back on, 1 through the other 2. Going over to my next white stitch, my next orange stitch, and then I am going to pick up this loose band as well. So this is that stitch that's right next to your loose band. So now I have the 3 orange loops plus the 2 white. So I'm going to pull through all 3 of those. I guess actually technically I have 3 white here, but I'm only going through the stitch itself. Go through those 2, back on, again, 1 through the other 2. Moving over to my next white stitch. Now the band that we just connected, I am going to go through, so it's this orange band that just got attached. It's going to be my next stitch. So I'm just going through the orange stitch, the white stitch, and through. So now if you look here, the ear is really angling down, but when we attach that next row, it's going to make it stick up more. So if you look here at your orange stitches, you should have 3 empty stitches that we're going to connect on the next row. So now I have a white stitch, my last white band here in this section, regular single crochet, over to orange, remember, ignore the first part, doing a slip stitch with the orange, and now we're going to attach the next ear. So under the orange stitch, take your next ear, again face it like it's going to be, facing towards the front, but now angle it down so we can get to these stitches. Again, here's your loose band, count 2 stitches over, so this would be 1, 2, and you can open this circle up if you need to. Again, we're going to attach it the same way. It's going to go through the stitch on the ear, stitch on the head, get it back on. Whoops, I'm wrapped around my clip. There we go. 1 through the other 2. And now I'm moving over to the next stitch on the head, the next stitch on the ear, and pick up that loose band as well. So you're pulling through the 3 loops on the ear, the stitch on the head, and then next stitch over. Again, that stitch that we just attached, that loose band that we just attached, is going to be your next stitch. We are counting that. Through both stitches. Again, here's what it's going to look like. They are going to be kind of angled down to where the eyes would be, but as I said, they are going to perk up when we attach the next row. So that's going to leave us here with 4 more orange stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, and the last orange stitch gets an orange band. Next one was a slip stitch, so ignore. I've been pointing those out. I'm not going to continue to point them out every time. Just know that we're doing a slip stitch since we're changing to white, and 2 more singles. So hopefully everybody made it through that part okay. In row 13, we're going to finish connecting the ears, and where I have the 3 whites grouped and the 3 oranges, that's where they're going to connect. We're starting with 11 white, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whoops, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So now I'm going under the white stitch. I want to find that next empty orange stitch. This part should be a little bit easier than attaching the first part. It should be easier to see. I do have a white, so that's one. And now the next stitch, you may find that your stitches are a little tighter because they're being pulled by the first part of the ear. Just go under both sets of stitches. Again, we're still working with white. That's the second, and then white. And this one may be a little tough to get under. This is our last one for this ear. And now in the next stitch, I have a white single. Next is a white stitch, but I am switching to the orange. So slip stitch. And again, this was a slip stitch, so forget that part. You're going under the stitch. And we are going to connect the next part of the ear. So find your next empty stitch, push through. That's one. Again, these may look a little tighter. Go through both stitches. There's two. And then one more. This one's even harder to see because everything's orange, but here's the stitch. And then I have 4 more orange. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, orange stitch, switching to white, do your slip stitch. We are going to have 4 of these, so that's 1. This was a slip stitch, 2, 3, and 4. So now your ears should be completely attached. They should be standing up nice and tall, but they should also have this part that folds down. So you can play around with it if you need to. Do a little adjusting. In row 14, you're going to need 27 white bands. We're doing just 1 single crochet into each stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and let you do that on your own. So you can pause, and I will see you back here in a minute. Next, I'll show you how I made the eyes. So what I did was I bought a piece of this white foam sheet. I actually got it at my local Walmart. I think they were like 50 cents. And then I took a Google eye here. This is an oval shape, and it's about 3/4 of an inch long ways. So what I did was I just placed that on the foam sheet and I traced it. I cut it out, and I was left with this. And then I did cut the bottom off a little bit to make it more flat at the bottom. And then I took a black marker and I just very carefully traced the edge to give just a little black rim around it. And then I have these 9mm animal eyes made by Darius, and I just poked it through. So that's what I did to make the eyes. And then the safety eyes do have a back on, which sometimes I use and sometimes I don't. But if you wanted to stay permanently on, you would want to use that. So you can see where you think it looks best. You would just poke it through, and then you would use the backing to secure that nice and tight. So once you see where you want your eyes to be, then you can get an idea of where you want your eyebrows to go. So I would recommend, before you actually secure this in place, just get an idea here. And so I would say this row right here is where I would want the eyebrow to be. And the way I did the eyebrows is the exact same way I did the mouth. I just did 3 brown rubber bands and put them along the one row, secured it off with a slip knot inside, and then once you have your eyebrow, then you can put your eye in and tack that in place. This is the end of part 1, so I will add the link to go to part 2, and I hope that everyone is thrilled with the way that your dogs are starting to turn out. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page. I always love to see what everyone's doing. And feel free to subscribe so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to post your pictures and comments there too, and subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!